iRacing.
It's the last chance before the summer break to say, I am top dog. You know, after this, you're not going to be racing for nearly a month. And so your opportunity is this. How do you want to sit and wait and practice? Do you want to sit being more or less than 33 points back, Mr. Jacob Reed? Eduardo Rodis knows that he knows what it takes to win, as he did so last year. Jacob Reed, the 2 years before that. We're here at the Hungaroring, newly attributed with corner names, and we're going to get ourselves ready for racing action here in the iRacing Grand Prix Tour. My name's Jake Sperry. Alongside with me for today's action is Joseph Black, as alongside for action is Christian Deploy in the director's chair using the camera packs provided by Dougie Beard. So, to the Hungaroring, which the first ever circuit to be raced behind the Soviet Iron Curtain. This is a very important racetrack in the history of the world, and it's a very important track guide that comes up for you now.
Welcome to the Hungaroring. Situated just northeast of Budapest, this Grand Prix circuit has racked up a stunning history in just a little more than 30 years of existence. Its biggest claim to fame was holding the first Formula One race inside the Iron Curtain at a time when the Cold War was at its peak. But most fans don't associate this 2.7-mile or 4.38-kilometer track with politics. No, its 14 turns make it tight and twisty with a reputation for few places to overtake. For a long time, it was renowned for processional races in which qualifying is of the utmost importance. But the past couple decades have seen a litany of utterly wild and unpredictable races that greatly overshadow the single-file events of before. The majority of passing takes place into Turn 1, while some battles do carry on into Turn 2. But be careful about how greedy you get, because the steep drop in elevation makes it easy to go wide. Other than that, Turn 12 is often the only other realistic place to sneak by your opponent. Perhaps the scariest and trickiest of the corners is 4, which presents a blind and crooked entry into a high-speed flick. Though modern times have seen a paved runoff added to it to make it safer, that's considered out of bounds, and drivers will find themselves being told to give back time if they abuse the exit. Built with fans in mind, the track sits in a natural bowl, allowing great views from most sides of the venue. It's easy to see why it's become a fan favorite on the F1 calendar, and there's little doubt it'll continue to see lots of racing for years to come.
Well, this track has 14 corners, and they are brand newly minted, Joseph, with brand new names.
They certainly are, and it's going to be a very exciting time watching us try to scramble around to name them. And highlights will be across this 4.38-kilometre track. Turn 1 at PK, where there'll be plenty of overtaking chances. Turn 6 and 7 at Driving Centre, which will be one where if they really want to make a gambled move, they will, and there will be lots of mistakes there as well. And then turn 12 of Schumacher, which is going to be heading on to the final complex of this circuit. It's the Magyar Nagadic, and we are very much looking forward to today's action.
We absolutely are. This circuit that opened in 1986, named or built in the city of what is turn number 5 of Mobiro, there in this lovely Hungarian track, and a track which holds a lot of weight for where this championship now currently resides, because your top 2 in the championship have been on the podium for the last 6 races in a row together. Eduardo Rodis and Jacob Reed, it's a case of who will crack compared one to the other. Jacob Reed, 8 straight podiums in a row, has given him the platform to go and challenge. James Byrne, a languished third, now 90 points back, and probably thinking about just looking to secure the championship third place over Sander Haugeru and Volta Lux, who are in 4th and 5th. And the rise of Mario Bodlos, who picked up his first ever win last time out over at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, will be looking to go back-to-back as he is currently 6th. You've then got the big scrap between Alex Hagland and Jeffrey Lawler. Lawler, who has not scored in his last 4 championship appearances, as Leopold Steneros is in 9th after a 17th place finish, and George van Rensburg 10th after a 15th place finish over at Spa. So that's how the standings look. But what do they have to deal with today? Because we're in Formula One spec, and this is one of the longest lap counts of the season.
Certainly is. We are just over the halfway mark of the season. 13 of 24 races we've done so far, or we are on round 13, so we've done half of our Grand Prix. We've got 70 laps, so one of the longest lap counts on the calendar. 70 laps for these drivers with completely open setups. They can do whatever they like to their Mercedes W13. Apart from crash it, there's no spare car for them at that point. There's a drive-through at 17x and additional penalties every 8x as well, so they'll be trying not to go off of the circuit, they'll be trying not to make contact with each other, and they'll be trying not to bowl like Valtteri Bottas did in very recent history.
Yeah, but that was in wet conditions, and we are very firmly in the dry with 4.5 minutes remaining in qualifying, and the first lap times are starting to perforate the timing boards on a 42-degree track temperature. It's currently Eduardo Rodis on top on a 117.8. He has been on pole position numerous times over the course of this season. He has done so on 5 occasions off of 12 starts, and he will be turning around and looking today as we focus with James Byrne out there at the moment. Rodis looking for his 18th pole position in his Grand Prix Tour career. James Byrne sees now that Mario Bodlosh up to second at 15 thousandths of a second adrift. He's working hard through the 13th turn and over to Cease Corner, the final corner out there on this circuit from Senna to Cease, and now to the line. Łukasz Szumowski goes up to 7th, but James Byrne goes quickest by almost half a second.
He does. Where is Jacob Reed going to end up? He had a better first sector. His second sector was below par. So as he comes to the line, it's not going to be up to the front row for Jacob Reed. It'll be the second row for himself as Filippo Minoni put himself on the front row, taken off it by Eduardo Rodis, whose second attempt saw him close to James Byrne, but not quite able to get to the top.
Well, that certainly makes a difference out there. You've got Andrew Petty out there on lap. Sander Haugerud goes 1,000th quicker than Eduardo Rodis. Your top 3 split by 18 thousandths of a second. Minoni with his best qualifying as well in 4th place. And at the moment, Andrew Petty's on a lap. I want to go focus, though, on the number 7 car, though. This is a guy who has never finished lower as Bodlosh goes 4th fastest, never lower than 2nd in the Grand Prix Tour. A win and 2 seconds to his name. Lenny Papinta, a big wiggle going through Cease Corner. Has he got enough to get himself up to the top? It's a 117.9. It's 9th place for the Frenchman. So trying to get back into position. So now you've got to look around and say, wow, wowiwa, he's going to have a lot of work to do. It's only Andrew Petty left to come to the line, but this has been a big shake-up then for the books on his second and final lap out there. Petty to the stripe, gets an 18.8 down and goes 17th fastest with that attempt. You've got Robert Ridgway as the only other driver out there to settle lap at the moment, but what a huge change up we have seen in qualifying. And critically again, Jacob Reed is down the order and he's got to fix his qualifying.
He does, because that's the second occasion where he's found himself further down in the order than he would have liked to be. Of course, he's been able to fight back, but he hasn't had a win since Montreal, which was 6 rounds ago. So he's really starting to feel the squeeze, and having to put all of the pressure on his races is not going to be beneficial in the long run. Our last run then for Robert Ridgway, our last driver out on the circuit, at the moment finds himself in 19th place without a real representative lap time. He's into the 121s at the moment. Looks like he's going to be getting into the 118s at the end of this lap as he comes to the line. And what is this going to be for our number 12? It's going to be a 119.5, so slightly slower in the final sector. But that will be it for the qualifying session. That will be James Byrne on top, Eduardo Rodis beaten out by 1,000th of a second onto the front row.
Well, how often do you see the top 2 in the championship off the front row? It had to take a lot of panic in qualifying at Barcelona to make the difference. And Steneros, we know, with the orange meatball flag here in qualifying. So he's had himself a big issue out there, which has put him into a world of trouble. But with this qualifying session written up now and say, look, it's in the books, now is going to be a huge opportunity to say, what do you have? James Byrne then in control with Sander Haugeru alongside for company. He's yet to have a win this season, but he's fourth in the championship. Eduardo Radice starts third with Mario Bodlosh fourth, and what a qualifying by Filippo Manoni to get himself to fifth. Volta Lux is there in sixth place. Jacob Reed will have Aaron Full there for company. His best finish has been ninth as he qualifies himself in eighth.
Certainly does, and Lenny Paventa and Jeffrey Lawler round out the top 10. Then George van Rensburg, the last driver in within a second of James Byrne's pole time, with Dennis Branch just outside. Leopold Steneros will be in 13th alongside Kent Nielsen on the 7th row of the grid, and then it'll be Philip Kuhnhardt and Lukasz Okomski, 16 out of the 22 drivers who are racing here today.
Yes, and so with that, you've got Andrew Petty and Sebastian Rekov then on row 9. The last two times were set by Robert Ridgway and Lyle Pienaar. His time not representative at 5.4 seconds adrift. Balazs Galliar then on home soil sets no time in qualifying. Will go from the back of the grid along with Ali Gochman, the Turkish driver, who will understand his role and responsibility on a 22-car field here tonight. So the run to PK, extended after 2002, is now going to be the all-important place where overtaking will happen. So too up to Nigel Mansell at turn number 4. Keep an eye out on that as a place where they can go. This is a tricky circuit and one that often as well puts emphasis on incident points. Some drivers have been complaining, the likes of Ray Griffey-Owen, who's not here tonight, as they look to get themselves set up. Track is dropping in temperature. In-sim time has just ticked over 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 40 degrees Celsius out there here today. So there is a lot of understanding of, okay, this is where the next level is going to be had, and this is where you're going to have to start thinking about it. In fact, it's just ticked under to 39 degrees, but it's an all-important run towards turn number 1, and James Byrne is looking for another chance to get his 6th win of the season. It's his 4th pole position in Grand Prix Tour history on his 34th career start, but he'll be turning around and saying, I'm not done with my championship. I need a lot of help from Radice and Jacob Reed, but I think it's still possible in my wheelhouse if I am flawless from now to the end. 70 laps, we expect it to be a one-stop strategy today. Lights on, Van Rensburg, Ridgway and Manoni on soft tyres to get started, and we're underway. Slow start there from James Byrne. Good start though by Eduardo Radice, goes to the outside. Bodlosh as well has had a great start. They're all covering the line here into turn number 1. Aggressive on the brakes, into PK they go. Haugeru is the one who ends up losing out off of the get-go, but it's Byrne who's got the best start of everybody. They're clean through PK. They head to Hamilton at turn 2. Here comes Mario Bodlosh around the outside of Eduardo Radice, but over here at the Forash corner, the spring of turn 3, they climb to Mansell. Bodlosh up to second.
He was really aggressive in the early proceedings, was Mario Bodlosh, and I think that Eduardo Radice decided it would be better to let him go rather than bite him and lose that time. And 7/10 is the gap between Byrne and Bodlosh on this first lap, wide further back in the order. I think that will be Lenny Paventa, who's gone wide and dropped a position to Aaron Full. George van Rensburg involved as well, as there's going to be contact further back, and there's going to be issues for some of the drivers. There's even more. Jacob Reed and Filippo Manoni
goes upside down. You cannot write it. Lap 1, Jacob Reed is out.
Unbelievable. We said that his poor qualifying was going to cost him at some point this season. There is the chance for that qualifying to just cost him in this championship. That is absolutely vital, and now this is an open door for Eduardo Radice.
Goodness gracious me, Filippo Manoni was under pressure on the opening lap, going through the lefts of 8 and 9 of Buda and Pest. And well, Jacob Reed will turn around and say Filippo Manoni being that high up the order was a pest for me. But the opening lap score complete. Papanta now up into 8th place, and suddenly realising that today is about opportunity. And how many points of a ding does Eduardo Radice want to land right now on the 2-time champion? Replay coming up.
Yeah, we're going to have a watch of what happened to Manoni and Reed. Of course, Manoni, the driver who was ahead at this point, he looked to the inside but couldn't quite make his move stick, and it was just, he was slow off the corner.
And then he comes back, never making the corner. And I think he's lost his head here as Filippo Manoni. If I was Jacob Reed, I think you're sending a message to Nim Cross.
Yeah, that's a huge shame. Of course, we want to see the drivers all racing nice and fair, but unfortunately, sometimes these things can happen in the heat of the moment, and I'm sure there's going to be grovelling later on for Filippo Manoni when he realises just what he's done to Jacob Reed's championship chances, which is really throw it into the favour of Eduardo Radice. We saw that Reed was still always going to be the one chasing. We knew that as well. Andrew Petty's gone.
In the wall, that's coming out of Senna at turn 13. He's just lit up the rears too much, putting too much right foot to the floor, and he's gone around. He's got no front wing, and he's missed the pit lane, so he's going to have to go another lap around before he can bring that one back in. Radice currently in third. It's Byrne who leads, Bodlosh second, Radice in third, Sander Haugerud in fourth place, and then Volta Lux then in P5, on board with the reigning champion, the championship leader here in this third place, working through Mogorod and over now here towards the driving centre chicane of turn 6 and 7.
Yes, heading through Eduardo Radice, chasing behind Mario Bodlosh, who's losing more and more time, lap by lap, to our race leader of James Byrne at the moment, who's doing a fantastic job to keep that pace up. He's got about 5/10 a lap on Mario Bodlosh, and he hopes to keep that momentum going, as we're going to get a replay in the top right of what happened to Sebastian Rekov. That's a huge kick of oversteer.
Well, Jacob's very unhappy. He's just come into chat, said completely intentional. Rekov around there in the top right corner will not be happy, because he knows how important it is for him to go out there to score points, to get results on the board, and he understands the importance of his day and getting everything he possibly can in working order. James Byrne sets the fastest lap then of the race and realizes that he is making some very, very good progress here to build that gap over a second. George van Rensburg here in ninth, looking to get by Lenny Papinta here, who is there in 8th place at the moment, +1 for the day. But it is worth noting, while he does have a win and 2 podiums to his name, he hasn't driven this car, has Lenny Papinta, in what I believe is well over 2 years here in iRacing, and that is going to be key for his Grand Prix Tour stats. He has not touched the car as Lenny Papinta since Jerez in 2024.
Which means that he's going to be a little bit more rusty. It might take him a bit more time to get going in this race. And Lenny Papinta, of course, the very well qualified sim racer that he is, will be used to adapting to it. But at this kind of level, it's going to be difficult to adapt as quickly as he would like to. So it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get himself underway and for him to get himself racing at his full potential. So early on, it's about trying to avoid issues. And in fairness, to be within the top 8, considering he hasn't raced that car in such a long time, he's doing pretty okay.
Oh, car off on the outside, and can you believe it? It's Eduardo Radice, the championship leader. I can't believe it here at the Hungaroring. In the space of 4 laps, we've seen Jacob Reed in trouble, and Eduardo Radice has spun it, has not hit the wall. He's back to 9th.
What is it about this circuit that causes issues like this? Eduardo Radice, just what happened there? It's almost appears as though he's locked up mid-corner and just thrown himself the rear lock through the middle of the final corner on the circuit, and that will be a huge cost for him. But crucially, he's still in the race and still in the points.
I can't quite believe what I'm seeing here, but James Byrne and Mario Bodlosh all of a sudden have a 2.5 second gap over the Norwegian Sander Haugerud and the Austrian Volta Lux. Mario Bodlosh on cue, looking for back-to-back victories here, but he's got to run through James Byrne now if he wants to go and make that happen. And James here is setting himself up very nicely at the start of this race and saying, look, you know what? This is what it's going to be all about, just giving absolutely everything I can on the wall and hoping that it's going to stick. Through Senna of turn 13 and Cease corner, turn 14 out on track. This long looping right is back-to-back 180-degree corners. You get 3 in a row when you get yourself down to PK at turn 1. This is where you get the drag reduction system in these W13s. It's an extra 294 kilometers an hour in a straight line for Bodlosh with a fastest lap of a 121.004.
And now it's something that you don't see in real life racing anymore. You only get on the iRacing simulator, that DRS. So that's going to be a unique challenge for these drivers that may well not be representative anymore of real life, but it's definitely something they've got plenty of data on over the years, and they'll be maximising and using all of that data as they go. As we are on lap 6 of 70, they've had the DRS for about 4 or 5 laps now, so this is really their chance to start to flex their muscles and start to try to make their way up. Bodlosh is back within the range of James Byrne, who looks like he may well be trying to conserve those medium compounded tyres. 6/10 between the two. Bodlosh is definitely pushing because he's built up that gap on Sander Haugerud, but how much is he pushing is the question, and how much is James Byrne defending, and how much is he conserving is the way that we're going to answer it.
Well, I turn around, I look at this group right now from third on back. Haugerud looks, Lawler, Full, Papinta. You've got there George van Rensburg in there and Eduardo Radice on the back. This is going to be a group that is going to be very difficult to break apart, and what is expected a one-stop strategy today, medium soft, it's going to make life very tough to get through. George van Rensburg eyeing up the Frenchman then, try and get this pass along the very long main straight. Papinta goes defensive here into PK. Around the outside, tries GVR, and he wants it here, but he's going to need the drive on the exit. They almost go tyre to tyre. Papinta gave him racing room on the outside, inside of Hamilton. Then it's off camber through here, so you can fight on the exit, but the understeer starts to sting for Papinta. So at Forash corner, it's there right now for George van Rensburg. He jumps himself up into 7th place and will eye up Aaron Full in a career best P6.
Will at the moment. This will be a good opportunity for George van Rensburg to make the most of those soft compound tyres that he's on right now, and that will be just everything he's trying to extract from the early part of this race. 4 places up, so he's gained a lot, not as much as Jeffrey Lawler, who's going to be our biggest gainer of the day, apart from Ali Gochman and Robert Ridgway, who've benefited from the retirements of Filippo Manoni and Jacob Reed. But yeah, I'd say Jeffrey Lawler has gained 5 more crucial positions than those maybe further down the order, because he's jumped up from 10th up into 5th, and now trying to defend that position ahead of Aaron Full, who's under a lot of pressure as well from George van Rensburg.
Troubles for Sebastian Rekov here. This is going through Hamilton at turn 2. He's lit up the rears. It's a hefty shunt into the barriers on the left-hand side of the circuit, and that is Rekov's day done by name and nature there by the looks of things, as he will now realise he's going to have a long look at the office and say, right, what am I going to have to do by the time we return at Zandvoort at the end of August? Aaron Full here in 6th position with mirrors full of George van Rensburg, and his eyes set on putting someone like, say, for example, Jeffrey Lawler in a spate of disarray.
Yes, that's what he's going to be wanting to do, and making his way up into the top 5 for now. Van Rensburg on the previous lap time was going to be 6/10 quicker than Aaron Full, so gaining a lot of time at the moment, but Full is quicker overall because it was his personal best last time around, so it's just going to be all about that gain, and Van Rensburg actually was setting an invalid lap, so he's got to worry about those X's now so they don't bite him later on in this 70-lap race, which is ridiculously long in terms of the laps, and it's going to be one which changes the dynamics somewhat. When you've got less laps but a longer circuit, you can't quite settle into as much of a rhythm. You're going to have to unsettle your rhythm if you want to make a move here, and I think Aaron Full's going to try to do just that down the straight, unless he gets a poor exit out of the final corner, which will open up the door for George van Rensburg as Mario Bodlosh sets the fastest lap.
Yeah, 120.4. He continues to try and reel back in. James Byrne, the gap is half a second. Watch out in this front straight, because here comes George van Rensburg straight to the inside. Can he get it slowed up? Yes. Has he got the apex? Yes. Aaron Full is not going to find himself with much in the pink and white. New livery for him today here for Aaron. But critically, it does put George van Rensburg on the charge. And the reason why he's charging up the order here, Joseph, look at his tyre compound. Soft compound compared to medium. So he's trying to get this stint to work early. He will have to pay back that time later on in the race.
He will, especially because this is the heaviest the car's going to be throughout the course of the race, with no refueling allowed in the Grand Prix Tour. So George van Rensburg is going to be really pushing these soft compound tyres hard. They'll not last as long as they might do later on in the day, but it gives him a speed advantage at the very start, which means that he can start to try to gain places, and he has done so far. As well, he's having a look at the back of Jeffrey Lawler for P5. That would be 6 places up for him from his 11th place start, so a good job from him. Eduardo Radice has caught back up to this group with consistent low 21s and high 20s. Last time around he set his fastest lap of the race with a 20.9. It's not the overall fastest lap. Byrne and Bodlosh have that on lock. But he is certainly going to be the third fastest driver out there on the circuit, and he's going to try to unsettle Lenny Papinta into the first corner, as here goes George van Rensburg trying to make his way through on Jeffrey Lawler, and it's an easy pass into one.
Another one done at PK corner then for George van Rensburg, who moves up into fifth. Someone who will be eyeing fifth unironically as well, technically, is Eduardo Radice, because we talk about this, Joseph, the cycle, scoring from P1, P2, P3, all the way down to P10, every points paying position. If you manage that correctly, we call that the cycle, and he's one away. Only 3 drivers have ever managed it. A P5 for Eduardo Radice at any point in his career will mean he would have completed his first ever cycle.
It certainly would. That will be an impressive one for Eduardo Radice as we watch on. We are a 7th of the way through this one now. We're on to double figures in terms of lap times, and Byrne and Bodlosh are still locked in battle. But James Byrne, once again, he's been a little bit quicker over this lap time, but Mario Bodlosh has been consistently just about a 10th quicker over the last 3 or 4 laps. So he's gained, and James Byrne is now trying to earn all that time back. So I think it might be a case of the number 1 conserving and Bodlosh just using the DRS to pull himself along for the time being. Sander Haugerud about 4.7 back, and he's losing a lot of time to them, about 5/10 a lap to Mario Bodlosh. So the number 9 not looking in contention for the top 2 in the early portion of this race, as George van Rensburg wants to get a move on the back of Walter Lux. That's our first 19 lap time of the day.
Sander Haugerud, by the way, has not podiumed since the second round of the championship at Mugello. He's had a spate of 4th and 5th and 6th in the meanwhile to score his points, but third he hasn't seen very often. Lawler under a lot of pressure, but this is the sort of place where you just have to ask Fernando Alonso how hard you want to defend for what makes this circuit a very tough battling one. George van Rensburg then has gone down the road, but Jeffrey Lawler, oh, massive wiggle. They're coming off the exit of Mobiorod, and that is now going to put into play Aaron Full again, but he doesn't have the chance. Here as he now head into Buda, now into Pest the right, and turn 10 coming up of the Danube.
Yes, it certainly is right now. These are all the new corner names that we're learning. I haven't had the confidence to say them just yet, but we will get there at some point throughout the race where we start talking about the corners and I start referencing them randomly. They've just headed through Schumacher. I can definitely say that one. And Jeffrey Lawler at the moment leads Aaron Full as they head through the final couple of corners, and they'll set themselves up out towards the straight, which is not named, so I can call it just that. Jeffrey Lawler in 6th place at the moment, 4/10 ahead of Aaron Full, who's going to have that DRS's. Here goes George van Rensburg on Walter Lux, and it's another move to the inside of PK corner of turn 1. Aaron Full doing the same thing as well, and both of them completing moves that were helped by DRS, but then they had to be later on the brakes, and they did just that.
Eduardo Radice is very stuck on the back. Quadruple DRS is not giving him anything at the moment, and look at this. Now all of a sudden Lawler is really under threat at this moment. He'll be taking a good firm look at Papinta, who is there behind, who wants to try and get through. It's a who's who list at the moment today as we go on to lap 12 of the event and realise that this is going to be about who can manage to hold what. Radice in P9, stuck in P9. Imagine after seeing that in round 1 of the lap 1 of the race, Joseph, you turn around and all you can gain is 2 points for your troubles.
Yes, indeed. That's not a situation we normally see Eduardo Radice finding himself in, but it certainly is the one today. Radice is actually lowest finishes 8th in Miami, then 6th in Mugello. Then other than that, it's all podiums for our championship leader right now, but he'd do a good job if he's able to get back up to the podium here today, as he's down in 9th, and that gap is only increasing between himself and Sander Haugerud every single lap.
Andrew Petty is out here of the race. He's out on lap 9, and I wonder whether he's put it in he's had a spin and he's decided, look, it's not my race today. I'm just going to quietly retire the car. So he's done a spin over at Mobiorod, which is turn 5. It was on lap 9 of the race, and that then, as we're going to take a look at it right now here, he's going to get on the power again too early. car's just being flitted about way too much. He's decided, I'm just going to pull it off the side of the road and just graciously end my race there and then. And part of the reason why drivers are looking around at it going, it's very tough. It is blustery in from the west today. It's about 16 kilometers an hour of the wind. So you're picking up a headwind on the main straight, cross headwind on the main straight. So when you're getting out of turn 5 of Mobjerod, it's a cross tailwind.
Yeah, which is going to be tricky for the drivers to contend with, and it was Andrew Petty's third spin of the day, so he decided to call it quits after that, where he just couldn't deal with the conditions as George van Rensburg chases down on this podium spot. These softs have worked a treat for the number 11, but it's all about his race management from here on in. If he gets past down to Halgerud on this lap, this is into PK. He's made this move multiple times, and here he goes again to the inside of turn 1, and through goes the number 11. George van Rensburg sits on a podium, and he's chasing his best result of the season so far.
Dare I put this question to you right now, if you're Eduardo Rodis, do you dare switch to an aggressive two-stop soft?
I think you have to take some sort of gamble if you're Eduardo Rodis. Of course, he's got that buffer of Jacob Reed being out of the race. He's not going to lose anything to the Worcester man. But what he is going to be able to do is he's going to be able to gain, and I think he'll only be able to gain if he gambles and if he gets out of the slipstream of this pack, which is Lawler and Pepinter at the moment could be very easily back into the range of Aaron Full. So I think for Eduardo Rodis, soft may be worth it.
It depends how much he's being held up here behind Lawler and Pepinter, and actually where he'd come out, because he would come out behind the entire group of Galliard, Pienaar, Goachman, Okomsky and Robert Ridgway then in 14th place. That's a 5-car group that he's probably looking at going, I'm not that far away. Here's a look at the GSRC map then that gives you a good sense of where everybody is out there on circuit. And I would say at this stage, with the way this field is working, I think it's even a little bit too cluttered at the moment where he'd come out. He'd have to make some passes, and so that's the issue that he's running into. He's not going quick enough to clear the cars in front, and the group's not going quick enough to get clearance. Meanwhile, Leopold Staneros to the outside of Mr. Experience. Kent Nielsen couldn't quite get the move done on the man making his 91st start in the Grand Prix Tour.
Yes, it's just giving him a chance to keep himself going, and he's closing in on the 100 club, as this might be a great move for Philip Kuhnhardt on the outside, but no, spotted early by Leopold Steneros, and he just cut him across and stayed ahead in position, just warded him off to go absolutely not there. You can go for it any other corner, which is a sensible overtaking chance. Here's into turn 6, here's into Buda, then into Pest. Kuhnhardt stays behind.
Buda corner here, this one the left. Then you got the right, Goachman here side by side into the driving experience. Chicane has to abandon it and go over the anti-cut curves there with Robert Ridgway, who had lost the place to Łukasz Okomsky into Mansell corner turn 4. Not often you see a move at Mansell, but around the outside of Mobjerod over into turn 6. And honestly, it's a single file chicane. You've got to get the move done before then. And that's why Ali Goachman lost out on that one. Suddenly, Eduardo Rodis remaining steadfast behind the two white machines there of Pepinter and also Jeffrey Lawler. Lawler here is proving to be a bit of a roadblock for these drivers, and he won't mind that. He needs points, especially with no Alex Hagland today.
Yeah, absolutely. This will be really crucial for him to try to make the most of Alex Hagland missing this race. He's got 2 podiums so far this season, has Hagland, and 2 fourth places. So very, very good in what seems to be a campaign that has not quite gone his way. A couple of DNFs as well, more DNFs than he has podiums. So Hagland hoping to change it, not able to do so today. Mario Bodlosh continuing his part-time campaign, is now still within the DRS range of Byrne, but Byrne looks like he's starting to burn everything a little bit more and starting to push a little bit further.
Mario Bodlosh will be taking a good stern look at this with Volta Lux in 5th. If it were to stay as they are between the two, he'd score 18 points today with Mario Bodlosh. Lux would get 10, and he would move ahead of Volta Lux going into Sandvort by 4 No, I'll correct myself. By 2 championship points, he would move up because he would be there moving ahead of Volta Lux, and that would promote him up into 5th place in the championship. He's up against the driver 3rd in the championship, and you might not think this is a battle right now, but Bernard Bodlos here, this is the argument I would say. If Bodlos gets more starts between now and the end of the year, this is an argument for who is going to stand on the bottom step of the rostrum championship-wise.
Yes, that'll be really interesting to see what they are going to be able to do. Of course, there's going to be lots of contention at the moment. Whilst the championship fight is not going to be one we focus on today, with Jacob Reed not being in this race, we've still got a fight going on for potentially that 3rd place, that final spot on that podium. Sander Haugerud and Walter Lux, who are going to be about 30 and it's going to be 30 and 41 points off of James Byrne respectively, but if he has a race like Jacob Reed's today, they could really throw themselves back into contention, and maybe even James Byrne is going to close that gap down and put the pressure on to Jacob Reed here today. 25 points would take him ever closer to the total of Reed. He would take him to within just over 20 points behind, so still an opportunity for James Byrne. I'd say if he raced every round this season, he'd be right in the thick of the championship fight.
Oh, very much so, and that's the same could be said for James Byrne, who's missed 2 rounds. He missed Spa last time out. He also missed Montreal as well, so he'll be turning around saying, well, without those in the DNF at Miami, I'd be right up in the grill of those up at the top. And streaks then, we know that Jacob Reed's 8 podiums in a row has just been snapped, and Eduardo Rodis currently at a risk of seeing 6 podiums in a row go by the wayside here at the Hungaroring. Lap 18 here, Lenny Papinta still there in that 8th place. Nowhere to go in terms of that, but I'm keeping my focus still very much on what's going on for 11th here, because Kent Nielsen is really being put under the cosh right now. Up into Mansell at turn 4. Mulgero corner here. Turn number 5. Out on track, and suddenly he just gets it to grip up and drives away, does Kent Nielsen, with Stenerals and Philip Kunhardt having a look. And they are slowly losing ground here because they're having to go defensive here, Joseph, to Dennis Branch, who is there in 10th place. He's +2 for the day so far, and Dennis Branch turning around. He's on the back of 3 straight 13th place finishes, hasn't scored since the Nürburgring.
Seems like an odd one to be duking it out so hard for 11th place at the moment, and Dennis Branch just being allowed the opportunity to break free in 10th, but that seems to be the choice they're making, and maybe they think they can make it back in strategy later on as, well, we're going to be seeing, I think, a driver into the box potentially. There's definitely going to be a lot of time lost for Sander Haugerud on that lap that sees him back behind George van Rensburg. Here goes Leopold Steneros around the outside of turn number 1. He will move into 11th place if he can get his way through on Kent Nielsen, and he's going to give it a go here. Put the power down on the exit of PK, and as they run down the corner towards Hamilton, he's going to be later on the brakes. Maybe this is going to get very tight between these 2 drivers, and as they head through Hamilton, they will still be locked in battle. Steneros on the outside going slightly off of the road, but this is really, really good racecraft from both of these drivers. In the end, Steneros is going to have to yield.
He is. Kent Nielsen on the inside, turned outside, then over at Forash, then holds it at Nigel Mansell's corner and says, guess what? I am the toughest cookie in the box to go and crumble. And so he will not yield in any position. And Leopold Steneros knows he might have to try and pit an undercut if he wants to go and make something work of his strategy ploy here today. That looks like it might be something of note then, as he remains there, does the Swede, in 12th place, looking for any which way to get himself back into P11. Now I want to go up to 4th and 5th, where Sander Haugerud currently finds himself out there. He's currently in a position, in fact, we'll stay with this for the moment, because Kent Nielsen all the way to the pit wall like Michael Schumacher did once upon a time to Rubens Barrichello. Steneros, though, gets to the outside, tries to run it along that outside line, and gets it at Nelson Piquet to move up into P number 11. A critical pass for his race.
Critical pass for his race indeed. This could be very, very crucial. We'll watch as these drivers continue on, and as I say, duke it out for that 10th or that 11th place even now almost 4 seconds between them and Dennis Branch in 10th. They'll keep fighting. They'll keep really trying to hammer away at each other as we're now onto lap number 20, and they'll start to think about those soft runners making that switch. Of course, there's only 2 of them out there on the circuit, George Van Rensburg and Robert Ridgway, but this will be a good indication as to how long those softs will last. And just add a couple of laps on for the lighter cars later on, and that will be what they are going to be contending with. 1.7 between our 2 leaders, so James Byrne has been able to build up that gap again, and Mario Bodlosh is about 2/10 off of the back every single lap, so he's losing a bit of time. Lenny Papensa here going for a move on Jeffrey Lawler. If he can get close enough into turn 1, he can't, so waits in behind. He's got Eduardo Radice for company in 9th as well, as we're going to watch on with the rear diffuser of Jeffrey Lawler as he defends that place. Is there going to be inside line for Papensa? Not yet, as Lawler just holds on, and there seems to be Papensa now trying to take alternative lines, trying to find his way past the 10.
I'm looking at George Van Rensburg. He has not had a podium since Zandvoort last year, which would indicate it's almost been a year since GBR has been up on the rostrum, and he would certainly want it. Lawler here still holding on to that 7th place, doing a good job. Papensa then through Buda into Pesh, then the right of turn number 9, turn 10 of the Danube here at this section. Then Jean Alesi's corner, turn 11, sets you on this short shoot run to Schumacher at turn number 12. On the brakes and not really too much that gets itself sorted about. They're happy to stay in their line. I would be getting a very, very good eye on what is going on in this race between them, and noting that the soft tyre isn't going away here. George Van Rensburg is still matching the times here of James Byrne. He's in the 120.0, so I think that soft tyre is good to go to at least lap 35. Here comes Papensa to the inside. Gives the lunge here on Jeffrey Lawler, and he's not got it clear out then of PK over towards then the next right of or the left of Hamilton. He gets it sorted as there's going to be a huge amount of understeer here for Lawler. Kuhnhart can't get it around the outside either, as now Eduardo Radice will try his way on the languishing Lawler.
He will give it a go. He's going to try to fight his way up into 8th and then chase down Papensa. Maybe he sees that staying with the Frenchman will be crucial for his race, but first he's got to get through on Lawler, and that's no easy feat. But at the moment he's looking a little bit more vulnerable than he usually is, so Radice ready to go back again, and Lawler will know that there's going to be pressure from behind. He'll also know that sometimes it might not be his race, and he might feel as though this against Eduardo Radice is not his race, although they are fighting for position. But Radice, of course, is going to be one that's going to try to fight his way back up the order and fight his way within range of Byrne and Bodlosh at the top. It looks a long way away now for the Italian, but now Jeffrey Lawler leads down into turn number 1. 6/10 between those 2 drivers, as DRS will be open for both of them, but Radice will have a little bit more in the way of slipstream. He'll have that DRS as well, which will work into his favour. It will for Lawler as well, so they will stay line astern heading down to PK.
I tell you what, don't you just love how the World Tour here in iRacing is universal? You've got 7 different nationalities inside your top 10. You've got 3 Americans, you've got 2 Austrians, you've got a South African, a Norwegian, a Brit, a Frenchman, and an Italian, and they all walked into here, the Hungaroring, and said, well, who wants to go and win a race? Lap 23 of 70, and Jeffrey Lawler here, I think, is going to be trying to hold on to slipstream as much as he can. Philip Kuhnhart is very much in the same boat here. Hold on here, because Kent Nielsen's holding on to Leopold Steneros. You can't get anything done by the looks of things unless you see the car in front of the car you want to pass. Break clear by a second, and Mario Bodlosh here, all of a sudden, is finding this race to be incredibly difficult. A 120.4 on that last lap. That dropped him over half a second, and he's now 3 seconds off. James Byrne turning the screw.
Yeah, really pushing right now is James Byrne. Last time around at 119.837. That's only a 10th off of his fastest lap. That's only a 10th of the actual fastest lap. It's only a 100th off of his fastest lap. So really pushing now at what might be the mid-stage or the latter stages even of this stint, as I think 2-stop may well be the strategy employed by some of these drivers here today. I know that Eduardo Radice is thinking about it. I know we're thinking about it as well on behalf of Eduardo Radice, as now Lawler's outside of the DRS of Lenny Papensa. center, so Radice is going to have to make the move on this next lap. 24 of 70 gone, and James Byrne 3.2 ahead of Bodlosh, who's not been too slow in himself, but George van Rensburg trying to just reek and wring every single bit of life out of those softs is closing.
I think we're committing to one stops from this point onwards. You've got Ali Goachman as well, who is on that soft tyre, so he's another driver to keep a little bit of focus on here as far as this race goes, the number 20 that is out there. And in fact, he did actually come in and pit for a set of soft tyres. So he was your first taker off of the medium tyres. He's gone to a two-stop strategy. So Goachman, the only two-stopper by the looks of things, as Radice, I think, is ready to line this up. Out of Schumacher, into Senna, and then you've got Cease Corner to end the lap outright. This is going to be where I think you're going to have to uncork one here if you're Eduardo Radice. But look at the dirty air out of the final corner, how difficult it makes it to go and get by. He's up to over 300 kilometers an hour on the straight, but Jeffrey Lawler, unfortunately, has found the braking zone, and Eduardo Radice, I think he's a little stuck.
Yeah, seems to be at the moment. He's really struggling to fight past Lawler and fight his way up, and he is just... I think this is where he thinks about the strategy more than any other right now, where he can find his way through with that strategy and he can undercut and maybe, yes, go for that two-stop, but it allows him the chance to push and it allows him the best opportunity to be at the top of the order, rather than going for a strategy that may well not be as easily employed, may well be a little bit more traditional and will not give him as much of a lasting advantage. So even if it may well not work today, it will be one that I'm sure he'll be considering. What happened to Philip Koonhart as he tried to make his way through on Kent Nielsen? Looked around the outside and there was a little bit of a bump.
Well, Nielsen understeered out, and Philip Koonhart would argue he left all the room. Fortunately, it's not damaged anything on the suspension linking or anything like that, so they're able to continue on here in this race. But that was a big old wallop between Nielsen and Koonhart, and Kent Nielsen has maintained the place, but at what cost? He's dropped the time out there, and again, here you suddenly turn around, you look at Eduardo Radice, he's not there, he's not close enough, he gets aggressive under braking, but it doesn't quite do anything for his race, and the more that he ends up stuck behind another driver, because you're getting stuck behind here, Joseph, you're looking around and you're thinking, well, I'm scrubbing my tyres more because I'm trying everything. Nielsen, nothing he can do. Philip Koonhart this time by on lap 26 just says, nope, I'm having this one in my Audi mock-up coloured car here of a Mercedes W13.
Yes, it's interesting at the moment to see how all of the races and all of the dynamics are going to play out, and Koonhart 5/10 ahead of Kent Nielsen at the moment.
And this guy
is going to stay ahead now in full. Fantastic race so far, 2 places up. He's the 17th highest iRating in this lobby. He's in 6th place right now.
And he's eyeing up a top 5 for the first time in his career. And I think he'll be really chomping at the bit. So much so that he wiggles out of Senna, too eager to put the power down. This is a circuit that teases so very, very often for retirees from this race. Andrew Petty, Sebastian Rekov, Jacob Reed and Filippo Manoni here at this wonderful track. But for the moment, Aaron Full, looking at this one, probably glass half full at the moment, hoping to try and get this. Not going to get the pass at Hamilton Corner here, turn 2, but he's certainly going to be saying, right, I'm giving here Volta look, something to think about just before the pit window.
Yeah, it's all about trying to get into the minds of the other drivers. Racing is very much a mental game because all of these drivers are so closely matched on pace, and it's just about trying to unsettle the car ahead of you and unsettle the cars around you to make your way further up. And Aaron Full, who, I mean, he's 17th highest iRating in this lobby, which is quite a high lobby, so it's quite high expectations for the number 17, and he's doing a good job at the moment to keep up with the big dogs at the moment. 5/10 off of the back of Waterlux, and Sander Haugerud 1.3 seconds ahead, so might be falling into the trap of the 5 soon.
Well, here's another thing. George van Rensburg pulls the gap under 2 seconds now to Mario Bodlosh, and I wonder here whether the style that Mario Bodlosh has got at the moment is just conducive to burning tyre a little bit more than maybe his rivals around. He can't unlock it. These long parabolic style corners, maybe not as useful for the way he wants to conduct his running compared to what he would do at a different circuit. So I think Mario may be struggling at this higher downforce circuit than he did at Spa.
Yeah, might be. It's all about the different dynamics. When we are at this kind of high level that we are right now, it's going to be the differences between those drivers are punctuated by tens of thousands of seconds. So we're seeing these drivers really just they'll have their favorite circuits, they'll have their least favorite circuits, they'll like some dynamics, they won't like others. For example, drivers that like the Hungaroring will like Zandvoort because of just the tight, twisty nature of it, although there is a bit more undulation, which means that some other drivers might come to the fore, and yeah, somebody who might have the same skill set as Montreal might like here. Jacob Reed took the victory there. Mario Bodlosh second place there. Might look like he's going to go on for another second place here. James Byrne actually did not race that round, so it's going to be interesting as he sets the fastest lap of the race. But yeah, all the dynamics, all of the different ways they race are going to play into an effect, and somebody who quite likes Spa may not like the Hungaroring so much.
Yeah, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? And if you don't like the Hungaroring, then Zandvoort's going to be very much similar wheelhouse in terms of high downforce circuits that make life very, very tough for you. So there's a lot of focus in what there is going to be. Fortunately, there is going to be a bit of a break here as Aaron Full looks to the inside of Volta, looks here at Hamilton's, now going to have to go at Forash here and say, look, it's going to be mine. We do have a taker into the lane in the meanwhile. Aaron Full to the top 5, confirming it then through the left-hander of Hamilton and the right of Forash as it was lifted off there by Volta looking to prioritise a finish. And critically, it's Leopold Staneros who is down in the pit, who changes then. And the reason why he's in, well, take a look at this moment here, going through Mobiorod, and just like that, catches it. He's got a set of softs on.
Yeah, that's a shame for Steneros, who's showing some decent pace so far in this race, but there's always ways to build your way back up, and I'd almost say there's never a perfect time to have a moment, but it may well be just a little bit closer to a perfect time to have a moment where he can just use the excuse to come into the pits and commit to that undercut strategy.
Robert Ridgway has come off of his soft compound tyres. He's gone on to a set of mediums. So he's now one of the soft runners who's coming to make that stop. In comes Eduardo Radice, and I'm not shocked to see him in early because he has been bottled up all race long. He needs fresh air, gets on the speed limiter at 80 kilometres an hour, and now desperately needs some fresh air and some soft tyres.
Yeah, it does indeed, and well, that will be a great chance for Eduardo Radice, who's into the box to try to rebuild his race from that ground up and start to get himself going in this race once again. Started to get a little bit stagnant even, waiting behind Jeffrey Lawler. He'll be out of the box in 13th place, so Lukasz Jakomski will be his next target up, and his first target up 2 seconds up the road, so plenty of time to get those tyres warmed up. He has gone for a set of the soft, so you're absolutely right, he's going for that two-stop strategy.
I think this is one-stop territory. Even this early, I think we're talking one-stop here. So it might be a reverse where we see drivers going on to the medium, or starting on the mediums and saying, well, the soft can last this long. Let's go on the soft as long as we can, because it might be today the better race tyre. George van Rensburg angling around a second at the moment as he wants to try and get himself then up to that second place. He's built a gap of 9 seconds to Sander Haugerud.
He has. That's a great gap to have at the moment, and that's a really important gap to have as well. As I mean, he took that gamble onto the set of softs, and he could be going on for what would be a really impressive podium here today, and well, a really impressive performance from somebody we wouldn't quite be expecting to be up there. He's usually in the points, but not quite on the podium, and this is as best a chance that he's had to jump up right on there, almost within the DRS of Mario Bodlosh, and this is a great litmus test to see how long the softs last.
Yeah, and they're lasting really well here for George van Rensburg. He's only 8 seconds off of the race lead. Critically, Kent Nielsen has come in for a pit stop, which means one less car for Eduardo Radice to worry about as he nears Akomsky. George van Rensburg on board into Senna, turn 13, up the hill as you look to try and get yourself sorted. We don't often talk about it being uphill going into the plateau of the final corner here of Cees, and then out of Cees, named after Ferenc Cees. This is the run down to PK. It just dips down the hill, and you're looking to hit that braking mark here and say, right, how am I travelling through the corners? 120.1's between them. In comes Sander Haugerud and Volta Lux.
Comes Sander Haugerud, in comes Volta Lux, and this is really the time to come into the box from these mediums to switch to the set of the softs. So it's going to be really interesting to see how far these drivers at the top are going to take those mediums. They've been pacey so far, but the early starts on those soft compound tyres we await to see. Eduardo Radice last time around of course did not set a proper time. This time around he will, because of course he came into the pits last time around and he's been behind Lukasz Akomsky, so he's gained 2 seconds on the number 21, and he will be alongside and ahead before he even heads into the first corner. He set a personal best, so there is time in these laps. A 1:19.799.
Akomsky was on the radio. He said pass right, and very much knew I'm in a different race to you. I don't want to fight you. I'm going to let you go because you are the reigning champion and you are the championship leader. So no shocks for me on that. That is a very astute bit of driving from Łukasz Akomsky. Then the Pole, who sits currently in this race now in 12th position with his stop to make, his scheduled stop to make right now. And the gap here for James Byrne is almost a full run from PK over to Hamilton. Such is his margin. 6 seconds is what he now sits, and with a little bit of lap traffic in the form of Kent Nielsen just in front of him. He's not going to catch it immediately. In comes Lenny Pepinter. So this is going to be interesting to see where he comes out compared to Eduardo Radice.
Yeah, really going to be very fascinating to see where he comes out. Of course, we've seen Sander Haugerud and Walter Lux into the box. They move up to 6th and 7th, as we've seen Pepinter and Dennis Branch now join him in the pit lane. Where is Pepinter going to come out? It looks as though it's going to be 9th. It's going to be a clear of Eduardo Radice, but Radice has those warm tyres, and that gap is only 2 seconds. We saw how quickly he closed up to Lukasz Akomsky. Of course, that was on older tyres. It all depends on how quickly Pepinter can get those fired up.
Well, Lenny Pepinter is no stranger to success here in the iRacing Grand Prix Tour. This is the toughest race he's had over the course of his 4 runs, but still very much on course for points here today. He will also know, as James Byrne, on a set of 33-lap-old medium tyres, sets a 1:19.5 fastest lap out there. He knows what he's all about and what he's going to have to drive to, the level he's going to have to drive to get there. Pepinter knows he's going to be in a scrap and knows that as his first start for over 2 years, does he really want to start mixing it up with the reigning champion? That's the next question.
Yeah, we will see. It's going to be a struggle. As I mentioned earlier on about Jeffrey Lawler, which I was proven wrong about, he didn't feel as though it was going to be his race, or I didn't think he was going to feel as though this was his race to fight, but he decided that it was, and he went for it. And, well, I'm sure he was absolutely fine with it, even if there was a little bit of frustration from Eduardo Radice, because you don't have to take other people's championships and other people's race situations into consideration. But, of course, Eduardo Radice would have been hoping that he was just going to be let through, which ended up not being the case, and it saw Eduardo Radice just get stuck and struggle, and now he's going to be duking it out. Of course, there's a few drivers still not into the pit lane, but he's going to be duking out for the lower echelons of the points, which is far and away from what he would have wanted to achieve out of today. And well, he's going to try to climb his way back up past Lenny Pepinter very soon. Last time around he set a 1:19.3. It was invalid, but that's still a ridiculous lap time. Would have been fastest lap by 0.2 of a second.
So as Lyle Pienaar exits the pits, the other South African of George van Rensburg comes off the pit. They're onto the pit after going 34 laps on a set of soft tyres. Will move on to the mediums from now to the end of the race, hoping the gap that he has built is more than enough over Sander Haugerud. And Volta looks. Eduardo Radice still stuck behind Lenny Pepinta, wants to get this done quickly and wants to get it done efficiently, but again struggles as Haugerud now gets the fastest lap as he works through a 1:19.3 and back onto the power again on this main straight. Pepinta hitting 280 kilometers an hour, and look at Eduardo Radice breezing up to his mirror, giving him the big wave and saying, you know what, deuces, I'm going to fly by you like Tadej Pogacar on Alpe d'Huez. Lovely pass.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think I was going to hear Tadej Pogacar on this race here tonight, but we do indeed, and we'll watch on as Eduardo Radice now has an opportunity to break free. He now has a chance with his personal fastest lap last time around to close right in. We're going to see the number 2 try to close in on Philipp Koenhart, who's got a worn set of tyres. It's 2.5 the gap. Wouldn't be surprised if it by the end of the next lap he's found his way behind him, maybe even ahead of the 14.
Bodlosh now in to take his pit stop, and he's going to be looking at this going, right, now I've got to really make something of this here, and he's gone on to his set now of soft tyres. He's off and away. He'll return to the race in third, and critically, he is almost 3.5 seconds clear. Jeffrey Lawler, I'd expect to fall behind the likes then of Pepinta and Eduardo Radice as he comes onto the lane. Haugerud again with the fastest lap.
Yes, indeed. He's really starting to stretch his legs now as Haugerud with a 1:19.1. Ridiculous lap time. Him with a 1:19.1. Radice with a 1:19.2. Nobody else throughout the course of this race, apart from Walter Lux, who's actually just thrown in a 19.4, has been able to get below a 19.5. This is ridiculous pace from Haugerud and from Radice at the moment. They feel as though this is their chance to push, and as soon as they get in clean air, they are really demonstrating that right now. 4.7 between the number 9 and the number 11, and he will be closing in on Van Rensburg as quickly as he can. George Van Rensburg now doesn't have the best tyres, but what he does have is tyres that will take him to the end.
Only James Byrne, Aaron Full, and I would turn around those two. The only two yet to come in and make their stops. Aaron Full is down in the lane, which means it's only James Byrne to pit now from the race lead on lap 37 here of 70. I'll be intrigued to see where Aaron Full comes out, and there's a car damage. It's Jeffrey Lawler, who for the 5th straight race is going to be out. He has smacked the wall out of Mobiorod, and that is his day done. What a torrid run it has been this phase of the season for Jeffrey Lawler. He has not scored, he has only scored once since Montreal.
Unbelievable. That's ridiculous for Jeffrey Lawler. A big shame for somebody very, very quick indeed. And we're going to watch to see what happened to the 10 as he headed through. And that's a snap on the exit of the corner of turn 5. And that caused the end of the number 10's race.
Dare I say it, cold tyres. And dare I say it now, Leopold Steneros for a point against Philipp Koenhart. On the brakes they go. Ali Goachman, remember, is pretty much going to be either on the most aggressive one-stop you've ever seen or a two-stop strategy here today on soft tyres. So keep an eye on Ali because he wants to try and make that run. But Philipp Koenhart right now, the gatekeeper to points.
Yes, is going to be the gatekeeper, as you say, as James Byrne into the box for the first time this race. He's done 38 laps on those medium compound tyre. He will come out comfortably in the lead of this one with Mario Bodlosh about 6 seconds off, so he's really put himself in a great spot for this race as James Byrne, and now he can't coast to the end, but he can take it pretty nice and easily. Doesn't want to push anything too much to cost himself anything later on as Eduardo Radice threw an Aaron Full, who looks like he's had a problem. The number 17 dropping down a couple of places.
Front wing gone. It's happened out of Senna. He has caught the curb on the exit, lit it up on the fresh tyres, cold tyres, and he has seen his day pretty much ruined by that. Bang! Into the wall. Front wing gets deposited. He'll need a new one to get himself back to play. And critically, he only needs a front wing to get back into this race. But he will see these drivers all pick up points because of it. And now he's going to be on the charge. To the outside looking for 9th is Leopold Steneros. Can't find it.
Yeah, can't find it just yet, and we'll see these drivers continue to duke it out and try to find spaces all around each other. Leopold Steneros, who of course had a moment just as he was starting to think about coming into the pits. It worked out for him, as now he was able to undercut on his opponents and give himself the best chance, which means that his tyres are not going to be in the greatest of shapes, but it means that he can try to charge, to challenge, to fight right up ahead with these drivers right now that he sits in. Of course, that undercut would have given him better track position, and he can try to make the most of that. And so he will be trying to fight at the moment, stay within the top 10. Ali Coachman right behind him. Not mentioned here much today, apart from the fact he's gained 11 places off of the start.
He has, and that's down to his early pit stop, a big undercut, and he might be looking at one more stop between now and the end of this race. Depends how well those soft tyres hold. Something else I do want to point out, I'm not sure George van Rensburg might be able to hold a top 5 in this race. And hear me out on this, because Sander Haugerud has taken a 9-second gap and has turned it into practically nothing at this moment in time, as Coachman, for the move for the points, gets down the inside of Leopold Steneros and says, yep, I'm having that. Steneros tries to drive it back off the exit. Look for the move at Hamilton, turn 2 on the outside. He's going to look to try and sweep it. It's not going to work there. Ali Coachman's got it covered and made. But Van Rensburg's under pressure. Haugerud at 6/10. Volta looks at 3 seconds. And how hard will Eduardo Radice be charging for a top 5? And if he get that, he'd get the cycle as well to boot.
What an unbelievable race it would be from Eduardo Radice to come back from the position he was in when he was stuck behind Jeffrey Lawler to find himself onto the top 5 spots and pick up some great points. Here goes Sander Haugerud on the inside line of George van Rensburg, and he makes the move. Rensburg really struggling right now with those tyres. Rensburg really has not been able to pick up that pace and get himself going straight away on that set of medium compounder tyres. So it's a weird one for George van Rensburg, because he was so rapid on those softs but just hasn't been able to fire it up just yet.
Sander Haugerud, the epitome of consistency. His last 9 finishes in the Grand Prix Tour read as this: 4 fourth place finishes, a 5th, and 4 6th place finishes. That's how consistent he's been. That's why he's 4th in the championship, and looking at his 2nd podium of the season as far as it stands. If this result were to hold over the final 31 laps worth of running, he knows how important it is to get out there to continue driving. George van Rensburg knows all those passes he's made, he's going to have to give some back. Volta Lux trying to eye up his favourite place by finish for Volta Lux of P4. He loves a good P4 finish, does Volta Lux. He's finished 4th on 16 occasions. He's also finished 5th on 16 occasions.
Well, it's one of those where he's not quite been able to take it up to the podium, and that will be a shame. But it looks as though he's on for another 5th place here today, which would be, well, it would be a continuation of his struggles to get onto the podium. But looks at the moment 1.6 off of the back of Van Rensburg. And if your prediction is right, he's going to make his way through on the 11 and jump up into the top 4 very, very sharpish. And then maybe he can try to chase behind Haugerud. But of course, the pace of Haugerud has been just that little bit better. He's the only driver apart from Bodlosh to be able to get into the 18s, which is really, really strong indeed. And it's only a matter of time before these two start to lose a bit of pace, I would imagine, and then we'll see how they end up going. But yeah, it's certainly a good start for Van Rensburg, one that he might not be able to capitalise on, unfortunately, but we can certainly hope that he's going to do just that.
Well, Volta Lux will be eyeing up this pass, try and move himself up to 4th place. Eduardo Radice as well, looking to charge as well. But Lux is going to be the first form of focus as James Byrne jumps into the 118s with a 118.9 over the line, puts 2/10 on Mario Bodlosh, who's not giving up hope here in this race, as Aaron Full has decidedly to become the next retiree, which means we're down to just 16 runners here at the Hungaroring, which is proving to be a very difficult circuit for these drivers to complete. Volta Lux here in P5, looking for this one here. He now has the fastest lap on a 118.8.
What a lap once again from these drivers. They're just finding new limits as they push themselves to the very stretch, and they will keep fighting it out, keep trying to maximize that pace along as they continue their race onwards. They're doing a fantastic job as it stands of really sitting in place and trying to just improve and improve and improve lap by lap by lap, and they are just doing that as Ali Goatsman runs wide.
Yeah, there goes Leopold Steneros back through. That was just getting yourself all crossed up, and he was trying to just get near on the brakes here to Philip Koenhart, and Koenhart very lucky that he didn't see that rear right tyre explode in carbon fibre and rubber confetti basically at that point. That could have been disastrous, but ultimately back out the points goes Ali Goatsman for the moment. And I do want to touch upon fastest laps for a moment, which Volta Lux did have until Sander Haugerud just took it away. Here comes the move for position as Volta Lux goes and gets that done here on George Van Rensburg, puts Van Rensburg back into 5th place. Volta Lux, if he gets a fastest lap, and same could be said as well here for James Byrne, would go 4th all time on fastest laps with 6 in the career. The only 3 ahead would be Marcel Fassbender on 7, Eduardo Radice on 8, and Jacob Reed on 25.
An impressive stat there, definitely, for him. And, here's hoping he can try to keep himself right in there. This will be a fascinating one to watch if he does just that. But Walter Lux at the moment, 4th for him, and George Van Rensburg trying not to lose time, trying to stay within range, and he's really struggled on these tyres. I'm not really 100% sure why he's really had such a struggle on them. Maybe he's just so used to running on those softs again and again and again. It's a preparation issue potentially for him, which means that he's not able to be as quick as he would be. But it's definitely a learning experience for Van Rensburg today as James Byrne at 18.5.
A lightning 18.5 as he nears Lyle Pinar in front. He's trying to keep Mario Bodlosh at bay, who is still keeping the pressure on at 4.6 seconds. And that's the key here. This race is not over for the race lead. James Byrne still has a lead. It's not as big as it was because Bodlosh has put the gap in with his undercut. But James Byrne realises he's in the management phase of this race. He's looking after himself at the moment, and part of it as well will be the help of his dad Jamie, his spotter, helping him out, telling him you don't need to go that fast, you just need to manage the gap from here on out. You have to save some tyre back in case you need it.
Yes, it's at the moment that is all it's about for our race leader. It's going to be try to save those tyres, try to sit in place, and then you can come home, because of course he's got that 5-second gap. It doesn't look as though it's going to be closed in anytime soon by any of the drivers behind. Such is the pace he's shown throughout the course of this one, so he can kind of slow himself down a little bit and just manage his race from here on in to a point where he feels as though he'll be able to take those tyres, to the end of this race. 5 seconds now between himself and Bodlosh, as he's now consistently a little bit slower than he was at one point, but still setting 18s.
In the 18s and absolutely flying at this point in time, knowing that Mario Bodlosh just ticks over 5 seconds back of him, and he looks to try and run. Mario Bodlosh, no stranger to second places this season. It's been a magnum opus of finding himself one spot away. Second at the Nürburgring, second at Miami, second at Montreal, and guess what? He could be staring down second again here at the Hungaroring. Would be his 5th podium of the season.
Would be. What a race from Mario Bodlosh it has been. He hasn't quite been able to keep up with James Byrne, our race leader, and he'll be frustrated, I think, with this performance. But the fact that he can be frustrated with this, with the outcome at least of this performance, is testament to his ability and testament to his performances so far this season. He's doing a great job in second, and big gap back to Sander Haugerud in 3rd place, whose tyres were a little bit more worn than his. George Van Rensburg's will be in range late on in this race, but whether Van Rensburg himself can be in range late on is a whole other question that I don't think he will be able to answer until the last lap. James Byrne once again, 18.5 even. What a lap once again to keep himself fighting up there.
Well, this is what's going to make life difficult here. James Byrne is the race leader with the freshest tyres of anybody out there, and that is just going to make everybody turn around, wince and go, well, there's not really much I can do about this except hold myself steady. Goachman, 24 laps on his set. You'd argue he'll be able to go at least another 15, but if he goes 25, he's starting to risk them. So this is very aggressive from Ali Goachman here. It's the sort of strategy that you look at here from Ali, where you turn around and go, has he been taking lessons from Alex Albon?
Yeah, it's really, really impressive tyre management from Goachman, and you said that they were going to be able to stretch those tyres to the end. I was doubtful, but I mean, he came in earlier than everybody who you said they were going to stretch them, and Goachman at the moment is proving that they certainly can stretch them very, very far indeed, although I think he's going to have to come into the pits one more time in this race. And, well, he's going to have to make that switch, I'd imagine, onto another set of the soft compound tyres as, well, he's taken these ones 25 laps. What's one more 25-lap stint?
Exactly. He's worked through it there. You can see on the dash, it's lap 45 of his race. He'll be going through the gears, a flick down to 6th, 5th, 4th, and maybe even 3rd. No, stays in 4th, looks to drive it off of the exit. And you'll see the rain light flashing. That's not an indication that they're on wet tyres or anything. That is the battery deploy. And around here, compared to many other circuits, you're not going to be finding too much use of the battery. It's pretty much a case of, well, where's the best place you're going to use it? Out of here, you see a lot. And where you got that heavy braking zone in the middle sector, very, very technical. No way to make passes. It's a great place to start harvesting the battery. Give yourself some room to go and actually unload the taps on it when you get to this stage.
Yes, it's a big point in the race that they're going to try to make the most of, where they are going to keep fighting that one on. And yeah, it's a very good race indeed so far.
Goachman, P11.
The top 10.
Keeping himself there in stage and realising, right, I want to get my point. I want to move into the top 10. Goachman comes into today 14th in the championship. Didn't get a finish at Spa, but had scored on his 3 of his last 4 prior to that. 6th at Long Beach, 9th at the Red Bull Ring, 10th at Silverstone with an 18th over at Barcelona. He knows how important it is to consistently score the points to jump up the order with no Edward Apari-Arie here today, who is the driver he's wanting to jump up ahead of. He realises he's got a lot of work to get there. 12 points he's got to try and close down on that. He's trying to keep the gap back to everybody behind is Ali Goachman.
11th place at the moment, holding on to that gap of 6.2 ahead of Kent Nielsen, whose tyres will be 10 laps younger, so will be a stretch. Would you say that, where would be the puncture region, would you think, for Ali Goachman? Because, of course, he's running the slipstream of Leopold Steneros for a while now, so he's going to have that little bit of dirt on those tyres, just the few more marbles kicked up as well. I think that, for me, I think that it may well be coming 10, 15 laps in.
I think he's already starting to struggle a bit. I think the slipstream is what's keeping him there, and that's why we're not seeing these bold moves down to the inside in the pure red Mercedes here that is charging with Steneros there in the orange and yellow, then just looking directly in front. So I would be turning around looking at this from Ali Goachman going, yeah, I'd like more James Byrne, another 18.5 as he pulls the gap out to 7 seconds here at the front of the field. And not stopping Spinner though. Lenny Papanta has gone around, and he's gone around through Pest.
He has. That's a huge shame from the Frenchman, who was running so well in this race, and he's going to try to find his way back into range of Eduardo Rodis as he was running earlier on, but he's not going to quite have that luxury. But he will now find himself in a lot of clear air. Here we are then. Here's what happened to Lenny, and he's just put the throttle down too early while he was still turning.
High downforce, big snap, easily done, hasn't hit anything. It's no harm, no foul. He's just made a few 50-pence pieces out of his tyres though, which won't be too good. Battle for 12th though. Kent Nielsen, most experienced driver in the field, up against Łukasz Komski. Nice to see him out there and running. He runs on a part-time schedule, and he has been a driver who has been the epitome of running out here in various Grand Prix style running for at least the last 5 years out there. Komski now closing in, goes to the outside because Nielsen has covered off the inside line. He's getting closer, And so this is going to be a nice duel between these two, the last two cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, they are. They are going to just keep duking it out for now, as they will be closed down, I'd imagine, soon by our number one, our race leader of James Byrne, who's just made his way from Balázs Galliar, and there's going to be maybe a few corners in between the two at the moment, so Byrne has got a little bit of time to burn to catch up to these drivers, but I mean it's not really going to play into a factor for our race leader. It may well have an impact on a couple of races further down if they're able to catch up. Here's one driver who may well not have to worry about the traffic today because he's had so many other things to worry about, Eduardo Rodis, who in fairness has recovered well to 6th, and he may well be able to finish in the top 5.
And if he gets to 5th, remember, he completes the cycle for his career for the first time. The drivers he would be joining in that regard on completing the cycle are as follows. On 2 occasions, Florian Kammer, who's on holiday and watching with us. Hello, Florian. You might have someone to enter the cycle with. Volta Lux has completed the cycle once. And Anthony Catt, who was with us last time out at Spa, he's also completed the cycle in his career. So Eduardo Rodis could be joining a very illustrious group of names, an exclusive group of names in that regard. Obviously, you don't want to only get 10 points, but he's certainly eyeing up a lot more than that, and he sees the South African in front. That gap now just 3 seconds, and remember, that was well up over 10 at the start of the stint.
It's now down to 2.5 as the pace has been literally a second between the drivers. Eduardo Rodis setting 19 zeros. George van Rensburg was setting 20.0s. He set a 19.7 last time around. What can Eduardo Rodis do in the chase? Well, he's closed himself up to 2.5 behind, so I'd imagine it's going to be, an 18.8, so it's again a second quicker. So while George van Rensburg is raising his levels, it's not quite up to these drivers' standards just yet, at least. He's really pushing on these medium compounder tyres, but they're just not able to keep up with the medium. That's why we saw such a pace differential between them earlier on. It may well not quite have been Van Rensburg really settling into the pace with the softs, just the fact that the softs are that much faster.
Well, George van Rensburg here is an interesting case. He was 7th in the championship last season, had himself a handful of podiums and some good top 5 finishes. This year, he's 10th in the championship, and even if Eduardo Rodis goes through, this would still be his best finish this season. He's finished 7th on 4 occasions this season, over at Mugello, at the Nürburgring, at Long Beach, and at the Red Bull Ring. A 6th place for George van Rensburg. It's not a top 5 yet this year, but it would still be his best finish so far.
It would, and that would be a fantastic achievement. Of course, he will feel a little bit like he missed out on a podium, but still a really, really good drive indeed up to the up to 5th place, and that's where he'll be happy to sit. He will be keen to move further up, but at the end of the day, he will be keen to continue this momentum onwards. He's done a fantastic job right now to be where he is, and if he's able to climb any further up, he'll be ecstatic about it, especially with the way that this race has gone for himself, where he may well have dropped back a little bit, but he'll try to continue his way through and continue his way towards the end of this race. Within the top 6, I think, will be the target.
I want to go to 8th place for a moment, because it's Dennis Branch who's being reeled in now by these 3, by Kuhnhardt, Cisneros and Ali Goachman. So right now, Dennis Branch is the one having to look behind. He's up 4 for the day, up 6 currently is Philip Kuhnhardt. And so I look at Dennis Branch here going, well, I thought I was safe and I was having a quiet result in 8th and I'd be very happy for it. Suddenly he's having to look behind.
Yeah, he's having to look behind. He's having to feel that pressure from Philip Kuhnhardt and Steneros and Goachman in behind. So there's still potentially points on for the Turkish driver who's taken those tyres. Now 31 laps. What a drive from him so far. Surely he's going to have to box one more time, but we've seen him before try to take that gamble and try to stretch them to the end, and he may well be trying to do the same thing again, but that's really a gamble when those tyres at the end of the race are going to be about 50 laps old, which is going to be, well, in short, too old.
And traffic in front, remember, that's Robert Ridgway, and Dennis Branch is probably going to be pleading, look, please get out of my way. I need to find a way to clear you, and if I do, on this front stretch, it will help me out compared to Philip Kuhnhardt. Robert Ridgway pulls over to the right-hand side. He's not the first Ridgeway that we've seen, because we've had Matthew Ridgeway here. 2 get cleared in towards turn 1 here of PK, as now Balazs Gallia, in the pits without a front wing. So he's gone out of the race here. What a shame on home soil, as Ali Gochman gets clear, and it's going to be troubles, I think, here through Pesh Corner, which is catching out many more than we've expected today.
Which is a shame, but here we go. Balazs Gallia then at the 13 that we barely mentioned today, and yeah, too much on the curb. And this time a little bit of a different issue than what the most of the drivers have had. A lot of them have gone a little bit too tight into the corner and have tried to put the power down too early. He seems to have run a bit wide as Walter Lutz, fastest lap of the race, and he's going to set an 18.0 on his pursuit of Sander Haugerud, which has almost been successful, just outside a second behind.
And Eduardo Radice up to the back of George van Rensburg for a way into the top 5. He'd have 13.5 seconds to chase Haugerud, and looks, I don't think he'd get that done in 17 laps, no matter how hard he tried, because he's got older tyres than almost anyone out there, working hard through Hamilton. Then going in through the long turn 3 of the Forage, up to Mansell here at turn 4, and just not finding angle, but he's now looking to try and set it up here through Mogurod and over to the driving centre chicane of 6 and 7. Gochman for a point, trying to go to the outside near the top of your screen, trying a big up and under, but he's overcut it.
Yeah, he's overcut it indeed. We're going to have a watch on these two battles at once, as the action, all despite the fact we're on lap 55, is still continuing on. And George van Rensburg at the moment holding on ahead of Eduardo Radice. You've got Ali Gochman on the back of Leopold Steneros ready to try to make that move. You've got Walter Lutz ready to go for a fight on Sander Haugerud. You've got Philip Kuhnhardt and Dennis Branch ready to fight, as Balazs Gallia is of course in the pit lane right now, and hopefully we'll be able to see him come back out with a brand new front wing and a refreshed racing attitude for the end of the race.
He's fully damaged, as Balazs Gallia. We won't see him out. George van Rensburg trying to defend, but look at that! Right onto the pit lane. Tell me you're not risking it if you're Eduardo Radice. He had to take a move, and he found a gap that almost looked like it was completely uncovered. Mark of a champion, the way that move was made. Eduardo Radice now with 10 championship points in his pocket, and realises the gap now is 43 at the top of the standings. That's just so big. This was an opportunity he knew he needed to make the most of, and unfortunately it didn't quite work out for him, but the recovery he's put on has been absolutely ridiculous. He could have been so far ahead, so it could have been a case of what he could have won, but this now takes him almost to 2 race victories ahead of Jacob Reed, which is almost at this point of the season an insurmountable gap. Lukasz Jakomski looking on the back of our 12th place driver of Kent Nielsen and wanting to make the move. We've got 15 left in this race, so this is really a fight further down the order. No move just yet for Nielsen to defend against, but yeah, Lukasz Jakomski still trying to duke it out right now, and really trying to have this fight with just 15 to go. Wow. You turn around and say, what can I get out of this? We're down to just 15 runners, and there's battles everywhere. Looks now for a podium against Sander Haugerud. These two scrapping against each other in the championship. They are 4th and 5th. They are split right now by 11 points, and this between them here would be a 6-point swing. It's the difference between 14 points in the championship or turning around and saying it's 8 going into the summer break. And I think Walter Lutz is turning around with the fastest lap in his back pocket, saying, I think I'm better than Sander Haugerud, and boy, would I want a podium today.
Yeah, he would really want a podium. That would be fantastic for him at the moment. With he's just had a late race charge that has been really impressive to see, and now he's within range of that podium, 6/10 off of the back of Sander Haugerud. The tyre difference is not going to matter at all, and well, it's going to be exactly the same that lap they came into the pit lane. Walter Lutz was lower down, but what a stint he's had right at the end, chasing into the first corner of PK. He'll have DRS opened up once again, and he won't be able to make the move, as it's going to be difficult down towards Hamilton to actually make that move, because I mean, you open up that exit of the corner of turn 1 of PK, and by the time you've done that, you're basically down to turn 2 already. So it's one of the shortest DRS zones on the calendar, and today it's not quite provided the opportunity with just 14 to go to make his way through. Walter Luck on Sander Haugerud. What happens to Philip Koonhart? Big slide, great save.
Philip Koonhart's pushing in 9th place, and he will definitely want to keep scoring here with Philip. He was 10th at Spa last time out. His career best finish is a 9th, and it would be his 4th points finish of the season. Walter Lux is turning around, realising, hey, look, I still want that 3rd place. He's still not quite there. 0.6, 0.5 of a second. Not quite doing enough, but the hardest gap to catch is between a second and about 0.6, because you just catch the massive wake of that rear wing and all the vortexes and turbulences that come off the back of the rear wings. It's the one caveat to getting big levels of downforce to push you through corners. It makes racing tougher, gets it to within 0.3 at PK, but not enough of a run out of Cease to go and get that pass sorted.
No, definitely not enough of a run just yet, and Walter Lux is going to be frustrated. He knows that he might be quicker than Sander Haugerud at this point in the race, although the timesheets wouldn't show it because of the fact that he is waiting in behind for now. He may well be saving himself for the last 10 laps of the race, where he can go for one big push and catch up and make his way past on our leader of this group, as there was a little bit of a snap there for Walter Lux, so might be struggling for grip as well. That may well be another explanation as to why he's behind. Of course, we're not in the brain of the Austrian. We don't know exactly why he's going to be waiting in behind, why he's in that position that he is, and why he waits there right now. But of course, there could be multiple factors, and he will continue to try to hound on the back of Sander Haugerud, hope that he will make a mistake.
Well, this is a truly stern test of the Norwegian's mettle. It's his first season in the iRacing Grand Prix Tour, and he has to fight hard off the exit of Senna. They really use the outside and say, look, I'm going to have to be uber aggressive with my reflexes to keep myself in play along this main straight once again. And Walter Lux follows him every stage, defensive pivots being found. But the car in front of Sander Haugerud as Lux rags on the steering there on the curb on the outside. That papaya orange Mercedes, makes me feel a little bit dirty saying that. That papaya orange Mercedes is holding its ground.
Yeah, it's certainly holding its ground right now. They are watching themselves fighting, and they are watching themselves, and they're learning off of each other as well. Sander Haugerud waiting in ahead, and he can see that Walter Lux is trying to find lines. Lux at the same time is trying to find the spots where Sander Haugerud may be a little bit weaker, and dare I say it, it's through the driving centre of turn 6 and 7. But through there's not really an overtaking opportunity afterwards, so it'll have to be a long-awaited move down towards turn 12 of Schumacher if he wants to make that pass, unless he can get close enough on the entry of turn 6 that it will be a pass. Through turn 7, it'll be side by side into the chicane, which will be very difficult indeed, and if he's able to pull it off, that would be ridiculous. And I'm sure he's going to make that gamble if he gets any more frustrated in behind. We've got 11 to go as they cross the beam, and Walter Lux will have that DRS. You can see how fast he is going right now, but you can also see how worn the front left tyre is going to be. He looks to the outside. Haugerud moves across. He's later on the brakes, but it's going to be covered off. Just not quite enough overspeed from Lux, and he's not able to get the power down out of turn 1. Enough to be ahead, but he will be enough to be alongside. Down towards Hamilton corner then, and he's going to try to sweep all the way around the outside. He's going to make that pass, but it's going to be a fight back from Sander Haugerud to take himself alongside through down to turn number 4. Haugerud holds on. Lux is going to have to back out, but is he? Through the hardest corner to go side by side on the calendar. He's going to give it a go. He's going to be successful. They will still be alongside into turn 6 and 7. I said Haugerud was weaker through here. Lux is going to take that chance. Haugerud over the bump. Through goes Lux. He's onto the podium.
What a sequence. What an absolutely insane sequence. Walter Lux giving Sander Haugerud the what for. He thought he had it covered at Mansell when he climbed up the hill, but Walter Lux just says, no, I'm going to hold myself on the outside, inside of Mobiorod, and over at the driving experience chicane, threw him on the curb and said, you're not going to hang on the outside. Haugerud now is going to have to find a riposte, and it might be on that front left tyre that Walter Lux is burning through.
Yes, it's going to be a struggle to get through the last 10 laps with those softs now taking over to what will be 30 laps on the next one. But of course, Sander Haugerud the same. But Lux has been waiting in behind Haugerud. He's also pushed his way through on Rensburg and on Papinter as well as there's a move to the inside. Here goes Haugerud. Just had a nose, tried to catch Lux off guard, but Lux was wary.
Well, Walter Lux, you're not going to have everything your own way here for this podium. Lux will be turning around and thinking, what have I done to deserve this battle? And Walter Lux, he himself has only finished on the podium once this season. It was a third place at Miami that he's been able to get. So these are the consistency men that are getting these performances. And the mechanical engineer, Walter Lux, is now realizing, right, how do I put this one together? How do I solve this puzzle?
Well, it's going to be a tricky one. He may well have a couple of missing pieces on the front left of that puzzle, and he's just going to be scrabbling, trying to find it anywhere for the last 9 laps of this race. This is going to be a really, really close one. Don't take your eyes off it, apart from the other battles on the circuit, like the one between Nielsen and Akomski. I think Lucas Akomski just got a bit scared off there with a wiggle that Nielsen had under braking.
Well, that was a case of, are you all right? He says over the radio there, because Akomski made his move, and then Kent Nielsen came across under braking very, very aggressively. I think there was even some contact as Akomski was basically stood up on his pedals, so to speak. So Akomski would go, what on earth is that for moving under braking? And of course, that will be a huge no-no for anybody who's looking to learn. You can't move under brakes.
You certainly can't. It's almost rule 1 of racing to not move under the brakes, so there may well be some discussions after the race between these drivers and involving the stewards as well to see what can be done about it. And well, we may well see that decided later on, but of course that's outside of the points. This is just inside as Ali Gochman chases for the top 10. It actually sits in the top 10 right now as Philip Kuhnhardt, the driver ahead of him, is going to be defending. This is over 1 point, don't forget, but every single point matters when you're one of these drivers who is quick. Further down the order later on the brakes from Ali Gochman, but it was almost an accident. He almost missed his braking point, so he's caught himself off guard. He's not going to be challenging.
Well, I look at Leopold Steneros as a driver who has dropped back a long way, and in fact a lap down then from this group, and he would have been right in there. I'm taking a look at his recent laps that are in the 19s, 20s, and now 21s. I think he's just starting to struggle here, is Leopold, by comparison, as James Byrne has already put him a lap down, and he's now well on his way towards this one, knock on wood. His gap, 12.2 seconds, and this is probably the best result of James Byrne's career. He's had to fight. I don't think he's had a gap any bigger in any of his victories here, Joseph, than 5 seconds. Such has been the level of Reed and Radice and the talent he's been around. But on start 34, James Byrne is driving like he's driven this all his life, like he has been born to go out there and race. And at one stage or in the future, surely he's got to be up there considering a victory, because he's well on his way to his 4th win this season. That is a car slow out of the pits. Robert Ridgway letting the lap cars go.
Yeah, and well, I mean, for James Byrne, it's just a case of he was handed a golden opportunity. Sometimes you can feel that pressure and it can cost you so much, but in the course of this race, he has not let anything slip. So what a fantastic performance from the number 1 as Walter Lux goes into the 17s for the first time. It's been really impressive to see that pace from him, but also from James Byrne, who, I mean, it's just a matter of consistency. Sometimes when you are at the top and you aren't quite expecting to be as far up the top as you are, it may well just be a case of, yeah, you kind of try to settle yourself in place and maybe try to go a bit faster than you're capable of. That can cost you. That hasn't been the case for Byrne today. He's consistently sat in the 18s, and even now on 26 lap old softs, he's only 400ths off of his fastest.
I think Mario Bodlosh might not be safe here. If Walter Lux has just done on that last lap a time that is 1.6 seconds quicker.
That is, yeah, that's ridiculous. This is, we will see these drivers duke it out at the end of this one, as here goes Gochman around the outside of PK. He's going to get through on Kuhnhardt, who looks like he's giving him the move, but Kuhnhardt's going to try to go through. Gochman went very, very deep into the corner, so he won't have got the best exit. Kuhnhardt sits behind. Gochman picks up 9th.
I don't think he cares whether he was there or not. It was a huge lockup from Philip Kuhnhardt. Ali Gochman just said, I'm taking the outside. Either you're going to be there or not. And he's just swept him. Kuhnhardt back to 10th place with a big gap over to Leopold Stenerl. So I think he'll be very happy about that. And on that last lap, another 6/10 from Volta Lux. The gap is 5.3 with 6 laps to go. There is Eduardo Rodis in 5th place. He is 18 seconds almost behind Sander Haugerud at this point. And he knows the job's a good one. He's got some good points. He's been able to score a top 5 finish again. And I think he realises here that's about the best he could do out of a bad situation. And you're judged not on your best results through a season, but you are judged on how you fight adversity from when it doesn't go your way. This has been a very, very, I would say, respectable drive from Eduardo Rodis today.
Oh, absolutely, it has. It's been really impressive to see the fight back, as I mentioned a few times. I know he's lost 2 places off of the start, but the fact that he's only lost 2 places off of the start with the way that his early stages of the race went was really, really impressive indeed, and he can be proud of himself. I don't think he will be. I think he'll be harsh, and I think he'll go, well, this was the race where I could have gone to over a race win ahead, but from where he was to pick up the pieces is really, really impressive indeed. So he should take some of that confidence into the next couple of rounds of the season. Walter Lux, 3rd place as well. He looks as though he's going on for what would be a very well-earned podium, a very hard-fought podium, and his first one since Miami earlier on in this season, where, of course, it was the only the 4th round. We are now over halfway through, as we will be through after Hungary, and this will be a great race from Lux if he's able to hold on to position. But Sander Haugerud, of course, isn't going to let him slide in a hurry. He wants to pick up his first podium of the season as well. He's got 3 fourth places, or he's got 4 fourth places even. He really would be keen to not make it a 5th.
4.3 now with 5 to go, or 4.5 laps to go here. Volta Lux is trying his best to run down his compatriot in the dying embers. His compatriot who has, believe it or not, 4 lap fresher tyres than him, and it looks like it's the other way around. Volta Lux has unlocked something here on this soft tyre. The gap down to 4 seconds here, and continuing to just hunt down that margin. Mario Bodlosh here will be seeing the black and red just starting to loom larger and larger in the mirrors. An 18.8 from Mario Bodlosh. Looks an 18 flat, another 0.8 of a second. It's 4 with 4 to go to chase. Lux has got to find a little bit more.
Lux has got to find a little bit more indeed. He knows that this is the position that he's sitting in right now. He knows that this is the position that Haugerud is going to want. He is the driver under pressure for what would be probably the first time in this race. He's done such good chasing all the way throughout, and to make it a double Austrian podium with 4 to go, he needs to really hammer home the point of sitting in that position and maybe holding this 2-second gap for at least 2 more laps, which is going to be the target right now. But Sander Haugerud trying to cut it in. Last time around he was 5/10 slower, was Haugerud, but he seems to have that overall pace. Just didn't quite demonstrate it on the previous lap time. But Mario Bodlosh, I mean, as soon as he got into that 2nd place, you felt as though he was never going to move anywhere else. He looked so set and he looks so comfortable, and even now with just the 4 laps to go on once again worn tyres, these drivers have been really impressive. He's another one who's really given us a chance to watch out for them, and really given us a chance to see what he can do in the flesh. 3.2 the difference between the 2 Austrians. They might fight it out at the end if Lux is fast enough.
Well, I don't quite know whether this is going to be double podium for the first time from Austria in the Grand Prix Tour. You'd have to go all the way back to see Oliver Stepanov and the work that he's done. Looks comfortably clears Kent Nielsen then as he looks to chase this down at 3.3 seconds. But this would be a huge result for a nation, Joseph.
It would be absolutely humongous, especially for one that's knocking on the door of the Hungaroring. This would be fantastic, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of Austrian fans in the grandstands who'll be really, really pleased to see these two both on the podium, and what a performance they both put on today. What a show they've put on. And Mario Bodlosh, of course, his part-time campaign has been really, really successful. 1 victory last time out in Spa, 3 podiums, all second places. He's going to add to that tally today if he stays in that position. He would definitely be a championship challenger if he showed up to all of the rounds, but of course he prefers to stay to a part-time campaign, and he's doing a fantastic job to keep this pace. He's 6th place in the championship heading in. He won't be holding that place as they head out, or potentially may well do, because Walter Lux is the driver ahead of him, and he's going to pick up 15 points from today's racing action. He's had a bit of a different season. He's been consistent. He's shown every single race, but it has been one of just staying in the middle of the points, as we're going to get a fastest lap attempt given from Lux, a 17.6 as he closes in, and he's just under 2 seconds behind.
Well, Mario Bodlosh is starting to turn the pace up, 18.8, but again, Walter Lux is just running through these cars again and again and again, and he's saying, look, I want to get there. I want to get there quickly. I know how critical it is going to be in order to pick up each and every single result out there. And for the moment, I think he realizes here, second is available, and he'd love to put a few more points, 3 more points between himself and Sander Haugerud.
I'm sure he would indeed, and that would be really good for him at the moment if he's able to do just that. 1.6 at the moment, 1.8 now, as he'll be watching that gap out of every single corner with 2 laps to go of this race. There's not going to be many more opportunities. James Byrne about to take us on to the final one, and we barely mentioned our race leader. Final lap is underway. James Byrne 15 seconds ahead of Bodlosh, so there's still plenty of time for Walter Lux.
Oh, there is time aplenty, and we're going to keep a very close eye on every single point of what is going to be a statement run. Down to 1.5 seconds, though. It will be for Walter Lux, and he will realize right now just how important of a run he is staring down the barrel of out there overall. He knows how critical this is going to be, and he knows that he catches the time in the middle sector over anything else. He's got everything he's got to try and chase down, but Mario, I think, has just got the legs and has just been able to extend out in a way that not many other drivers have been able to measure in their metrics, because we go to James Byrne through Schumacher, looking over towards Senna, and this has been the greatest victory of James Byrne's career so far. He knows how important it is to send this mark down. His 4th of the season. To everyone else, he said cease. James Byrne, absolutely dominant here at the Hungaroring. He is victor here today by an absolute mile. Mario Bodlosh will get his 4th second of the season, and for the first time in Grand Prix Tour history, it's a double Austrian podium with Walter Lux home in 3rd.
And what a race it was from him. He would have felt as though that a few more laps and he'd have had 2nd, but he doesn't care. Sander Haugerud home in 4th place, and he's done a very good job today once again. Just the only point that he could have had is that he may well have finished on the podium. A fantastic comeback from Eduardo Radice. He may not see it that way, but 5th place and 10 points makes his championship lead even more comfortable. He's got George van Rensburg right behind, who closed in late on, but not quite closed in enough. Lenny Papinta then, who had a spin earlier on, again a good recovery drive into 7th place, and there's a big gap of 24 seconds between himself and Rensburg, and Van Rensburg at one point was looking like he was going to be on for a podium, but a 6th place, still his best performance of the season. He'll be happy with that one. Papinta into 7th on his return to the Grand Prix Tour. He'll be happy with that one, as well as Dennis Branch, who looked set for an easy 10th place, came home in 8th. Ali Gochman, 48 laps on a set of soft compound tyres. He comes home in 9th. Philip Coonhart rounds out the points.
Wow. What a day at the office, and the Hungaroring has not disappointed here today with the twists and turns of this season. But James Byrne realizes today his destiny is to go and get almighty race-winning results. He gets his 6th race win. It puts him level on wins with the legendary Jordan Gronkowski. Then, as far as his tally will go, a winning margin of 16.3 as he gets himself pole and fastest lap to go at, well, not fastest lap, he gets pole and every lap led. It's not often you say you led absolutely all of them. James Byrne dominant. Mario Bodlos and Volta Lux will take 2nd and 3rd respectively on great drives for the Austrian duos, as it's Sander Haugerud in 4th place and Eduardo Radice in that 5th place finish. 10 vital points over Jacob Reed, but maybe less importantly for him, but more importantly for us stat nerds, the 4th ever driver to complete the point cycle in the Grand Prix Tour. That 5th place, the final Infinity Stone that he was looking for. George van Rensburg will get 6th ahead of Lenny Pepinta, who finishes off in 7th, and Dennis Branch getting points for the first time since the Nürburgring in 8th place.
Rounding out the top 10 will be Ali Gochman, 48 laps on those softs, with Philip Kuhnhardt ending up just 1.5 seconds off of the back of him. And then they will be the last drivers on the lead lap, with Leopold Steneros in 11th and Kent Nielsen coming home in 12th place after plenty of pressure from Lukasz Komski. Then Lyle Pienaar in 14th place, and then we get down to the drivers that may well not have finished the race. Robert Ridgway 3 laps down. He came out of the pits once again to get to the end. He came down 3 laps down, and the Balázs Galliar 18 off of our leader.
Well, these are the retirements. Of course, Galliard, the first of them. Aaron Full and Jeffrey Lawler, after getting a fresh set of tyres on, both found themselves ending up in the barriers. Andrew Petty, after 3 spins in the opening laps of the race, said, that's enough for me. I'm going to put it behind the wall. Sebastian Reckhoff found himself in the barriers out of Hamilton. And then, what can be said about Filippo Manoni and Jacob Reed there? Something that none of us wanted to see over the course of this race. And I think Filippo Manoni needs a good, long, hard look at himself after an incident like that and the way that he drove today at the Hungaroring. A good chance, though, to talk with your race winner, because James Byrne, for the 6th time in his Grand Prix Tour career, has gone and got it done. And James, I don't think you could have done it in any finer manner in the terms of the way you managed it, because you led every single lap of that race.
I agree. I don't think I've ever had a win so comprehensive. My previous ones all seemed to be scraped right at the end, right? They were all scrappy. So I'm very pleased with how this race went.
And talk us how important this is, because you've been running maybe less races than everybody else, so the championship sort of run out of hand. For you, you look like the strongest stage hunter out there. How important was it for you today to build that margin, give yourself a nice, comfortable race, and critically build on that margin that you have for 3rd place?
Well, if I lost all those points in the first half of the season, surely Eduardo and Jacob could lose them in the second half of the season, right? So it's very important to get the wins like this and to get them more often.
Absolutely. And of course, you're picking up when they're not putting down. Of course, you gain 15 on Eduardo Radice, you gain 25 on Jacob Reed, you turn around. You've got a bit of a break on your hands before we head over to Zandvoort to bring the autumn and winter season into play. How important is it for you to just get your head down, get a bit of practice in, and really crack on for this second half of the season?
It is very important, although it's kind of funny that you mentioned practice, because I'll admit I don't have really any practice for today. I just kind of jumped in because I was away for a bit. So maybe less practice is actually better for me. I don't know if I psych myself out in practice or what, but yeah, I'm looking forward to Zandvoort. It's a fun track and it's quite the challenge.
It's an interesting philosophy to have, but it is a critical win. It puts him tied for victories, along with the likes then of drivers like Jordan Gronkowski, for example, the P1 finish that we have seen today, and also ties with Marcel Fassbender for joint third all-time. James Byrne joining us then and getting the race victory here today from this wonderful Hungaroring circuit. And Joseph, the best bit is we've got a little bit of a break now. Drivers have a chance to reset before they run again at the next round of the championship on the 14th of August over at Zandvoort.
It's going to be good fun there, and I mean, you say it's the best thing, but I know we're going to be missing the Grand Prix Tour, but they're going to get the chance to practice there at Zandvoort for plenty of time, so expect the highest peak performance we'll see for those drivers. But of course, as they head into race sessions, it will not be quite as controlled as their practices, so we will watch out for what those drivers will be capable of around what should be a similar circuit to the Hungaroring in terms of the actual circuit itself, but the undulation creates a whole different situation.
Yeah, I believe we may have that wrong. I've got it down as the 21st, so it might be even an extra week on top of that here, which you'll catch then at 6:45 UTC or 2:45 Eastern on your Friday for amazing running. There's also some amazing action coming up here as part of a Genesis Extreme production over the weekend, because it's Oval Week for Grand Prix legends. They'll be at Talladega Super Speedway, which will be an absolute joy to behold. So make sure that you jump on out there for that. It is going to be for the IMSA Vintage Series. A look over to the Motor City at Detroit Belle Isle. Classic Lotus Grand Prix on Sunday. We'll be heading to you at the fabled Red Bull Ring for a high-speed showdown. And then for the Porsche's Owners Club, well, it doesn't get much bigger than this. It might be the third largest track right now in motorsport at the moment, behind the Nürburgring and Le Mans. It is Tailem Bend, or Shelby Motorsports Park at the Bend, and it's full GT layout then, which I think is just a shade under 8 kilometers out there in terms of run. That's where the Porsche's Owners Club will be going. From the entire team that's brought this show over to you today, from Dougie Beard's cameras, from Christian Deploy directing, Joseph Black alongside myself, Jake Sperry. Championships are made of moments, and this might be the biggest moment that the season has had. That could have been a golden goose for Eduardo Radice to stamp a 2-race margin up at the top. My, what a spin on lap 4 and a whole stint behind Jeffrey Lawler can do for so much damage in terms of championship points. He still takes 10 more away from him, though. Jacob Reed will be very scornful at Filippo Manoni on that opening lap incident. He will say if he loses this championship by anything under 25 points, he will say, that's the moment my championship was lost and it's all your fault. Drivers never forget, and they will know that they'll be back raring for more when the second half of the season commences over at Zandvoort. We'll see you in the Netherlands in a few weeks' time.
This is iRacing.